Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our webcast, Setting the Right Price Strategy. My name is Rob Lunder from the Edge by Essential Marketing Department, and we're very excited today to be joined by Chris Elliott, Senior Insight Analyst with Edge. Chris has been our prolific insight analyst for 4 years, and he leads our insight sub-team combining incoming requests and trending topics. Chris focuses on the UK and US and is adept at taking vast quantities and varieties of data and boiling it down into actionable insight. All participants today are on mute for the call, but if you do have any questions, you can ask them by entering them into the Q&A box in your GoToWebinar panel on the right-hand side of your screen. We will make sure to do our best to get to all of your questions, and if we were unable to answer your question today due to time constraints, we'll make sure to follow up with you after the webcast to respond to you directly. Today's webcast is brought to you by Edge by Essential, formerly BrandView, Clavis Insight, One Click Retail, and Planet Retail R&G. Our 4 companies have joined forces under Essential PLC with a shared vision to empower brands and retailers with the most comprehensive, accurate, and actionable insights and advisory solutions to grow revenue in an e-commerce driven marketplace. We partner globally with the world's leading brands and retailers to identify strategies and to provide weekly, daily, and real-time digital shelf performance KPIs, including pricing, promotions, availability, traffic, conversion, sales, and share. I'd now like to turn it over to Chris, who will lead us in today's presentation. Chris, over to you.
Thank you very much for that, Rob, and welcome everyone to Setting the Right Price Strategy. Today we'll be looking at the pricing and promotional strategies of US retailers in the grocery sector. We'll be focusing particularly at one of the industry's fastest growers. So let's look at where we are in the grocery industry currently. In 2018, e-commerce only accounted for 2% of all sales. And this is obviously a huge difference to other categories, for instance, electricals here, where it's in fact nearly 30%. However, when we look at the growth since 2016, we can see that e-commerce sales are booming. By 2022, they'll have increased by 165% in 6 years, compared to just 21% for in-store sales. And all of this insight is powered by Edge Retail Insight. So which retailers are leading this e-commerce growth? In this section here, we're looking at the top 10 selling retail banners. So this means online. So this means Amazon is split out from Amazon Fresh, and Grocery Walmart is split from Walmart, etc., etc. So looking at the change in sales over the next year between 2018 and 2019, we can see that Amazon and Costco are still going to be dominating in terms of sales. However, we can see there's a significant growth there in Grocery Walmart. And if we actually look at sales growth instead of actual sales, we can see it's predicted to grow by about 52% this year. Also significant is that Thrive Market will also be growing by about 45%. If we expand this out up until 2022 from 2018, we can actually see that Thrive Market is indeed the biggest grower at 206% growth, propelling it ahead of Amazon Fresh, Fresh Direct, and Walmart. However, Grocery Walmart, we can see there, that banner, it will be growing at a rate of 164% in that period, meaning it will be almost level with the entire Amazon banner, as we can see here, although still a little bit behind Costco. So what are Walmart Grocery doing that will lead to this growth? Well, currently, of their estimated 5,000 stores, 800 of them have an online grocery delivery option. By the end of this year, Walmart is planning to double that. How, we may ask? Well, by partnering with more delivery firms. So last week, we actually heard they cancelled their trial with one of its biggest partners, Deliv. But in January, it announced it would now be working with Point Pickup, Roadie, Skipcart, and Axle Hire to help it reach this target. Online grocery pickup, though, is also increasing in popularity, and there's no clearer sign than the fact that Amazon, via its Whole Foods stores, Instacart, and Walmart have all invested very heavily in the last 6 months in this area. By the end of the year, Walmart aims to cover 69% of American households with online grocery pickup. So we've seen how Walmart are going to leverage its huge number of stores to support its expansion in e-commerce, but how is its pricing strategy supporting this? Now, there are any number of categories we could look at to understand this. We could even look in various regions at various different times. Let's go with something current. Let's go with something that we've seen significant sales and significant promotion. So at this point, I have to apologize to any Rams fans out there because we're going to be looking at the Super Bowl. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the chips category, as this will probably have seen significant promotion and a large upturn in sales prior to the event. So throughout this analysis, we are going to be focusing on the grocery Walmart banner, now that I'll be referring to as Walmart Grocery from now on, and we'll be looking in 3 different regions: Roseville, Michigan, Miami, Florida, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, what we've done here is we've compared to arrival in each area. So we've got Kroger and Target through the shipped platform in Roseville, Publix, Instacart, and Target through the shipped platform again in Miami, and Fresh Direct, Peapod, and Wegmans in Philadelphia. In first instance, we've looked at overall assortment to understand who has the most listings in the chips category, and we can see that Walmart in every single region has the second most listings. So looking at Miami here, we can see that Publix has almost 30% more listings than Walmart Grocery. And in Philadelphia, Wegmans also carries a similar number more than Walmart. However, in Roseville, it's much closer between Walmart and Kroger. But let's have a look at the makeup of these listings. What products are they listing? Which brands are they listing? And we can see it varies quite significantly by region. In Roseville, Lay's was the biggest brand, marginally ahead of private label, certainly through Target and certainly through Walmart. Private label listings, however, were significantly higher through Kroger, although almost matching Walmart Grocery. In Miami, we saw quite a different picture. Private label has a much smaller focus in Miami, with Pringles even outstripping it in Target and Walmart. The result of this means that Lay's gets a much larger percentage of category in all 3 retailers compared to Roseville. In Philadelphia, we again see a slightly different view of things, and this is where other brands' influence is particularly more pronounced. An example of this is almost 60% of Wegmans listings sat outside the top 10 brands in the category. The impact of these other brands could even be further highlighted by the fact that local brand Hers is the top most listed brand alongside Lay's in Peapod. So we've seen what the category is made up of. How did these retailers promote in the lead up to the Super Bowl? So in this, we are looking from 1st of January all the way up to the 31st of January, a few days before the Super Bowl itself. And what the very clear trend we can take from this is that, we are looking at percentage of range on promotion here, so percentage of chip range on promotion. And what we can clearly see, the biggest sign, is that Walmart weren't actually promoting that much. Typically, it was around 7 to 8% of their category on promotion, and there was no obvious upturn before the Super Bowl. However, we can see people like Target, albeit slowly, Kroger, Target again, and Fresh Direct and Peapod. They all did do significant promotions around the Super Bowl, contrary to what Walmart did. Now, it's possible that Walmart or other retailers weren't necessarily overtly promoting and that they were actually just cutting prices. So we've also then looked at the percentage of range at its lowest price. So for example, looking at Target here, just before the few days before the Super Bowl, 93% of its range, its chips range, was at the lowest price in that period. That's a very clear sign that they are promoting very heavily and cutting prices to target the Super Bowl. We can see this huge upturn here. We can also see the same for Target in Miami as well. And a significant upturn for Fresh Direct as well, albeit after a bit of a decline. But the most interesting fact about this is that Walmart had a consistently high percentage of its range at lowest price, even going to 100% in Roseville at this point, and 98% in Miami. Now, what does this mean? Basically, what this means is that it implies Walmart is not changing its prices that often. As proof of that, we've now looked at how often each retailer changes its prices. And we can see Walmart has a significantly lower frequency of changing prices. An example of this we can see in this table below. Walmart typically changed the price of about 2.7% of its range in this period, compared to 40 to 60% in the other retailers. For example, Kroger adjusted the price of 62.9% of its range in January, compared to Walmart's 3.7% in Roseville. So what does this tell us? Walmart isn't promoting, it isn't changing its prices very regularly, which you might expect from its everyday lower pricing strategy. So we're also going to have a look at how Walmart actually compares to its rivals. So this is a price comparison chart. We're looking at the shelf price here. And here we can see that at the start of the period, for example, this is Kroger at minus 5.8. What that means to us is that Walmart is 5.8% cheaper than Kroger. And in the example here, 16.9% cheaper than Target. So anytime the lines go above zero, Walmart is more expensive. But as we can see, as we flick through this analysis, there's only one point where Walmart is actually more expensive than its rivals, and that is in Miami, and that is through Target on the Shipt platform, where it becomes 2.2 more expensive than Target. Now, in the previous slide, we saw a significant promotional increase from Target in this period, and we can see that is what has led to to Walmart becoming more expensive. So we've then broken that down further to understand where is Walmart more expensive, or where is it significantly cheaper. So here we're looking at Roseville. Again, we'll start there, and we can see actually that they have an issue on sun chips. Kroger is an average of 15.7% more expensive than Kroger and 15.2% more expensive than Target. That's obviously a very significant margin for somebody like Walmart, especially when you look at other brands such as Pringles, where they're 14%, 15% cheaper, or Ruffles, where they're 21.5% cheaper. And if we look through to other regions, we can see a similar problem with some chips here against Target, where they're 19.2% more expensive than Target. However, you can see against Publix that they're looking much better, much cheaper than Publix, other than the Cape Cod brand, where they are both more expensive. Walmart is expensive than both of the retailers. Quite a different view, however, when we look at Philadelphia. We can definitely see here that Walmart is very competitive, particularly against Fresh Direct and particularly against Peapod. For instance, looking at Cape Cod, the one they had a problem with in Miami, they're 32% cheaper than Fresh Direct on average, which is hugely significant. So we've seen that Walmart didn't really promote or cut prices significantly, but was instead consistently cheap, which is, of course, what you might expect of their everyday lower pricing strategy. But if they haven't varied their prices over time, how do they vary regionally? To look at this, we've looked at Kroger and Walmart grocery in the Midwest. We've looked at 202 Kroger stores and 124 Walmart grocery stores. And we've looked at a basket of goods of approximately 500 products in each retailer. So the methodology to this analysis is that in each retailer, we compare the prices of each store to every other store in that retailer in the analysis. We then cluster these stores based on the percentage of price matches between them. So here's a fine example. We have a dark blue cluster here we can see around the Detroit, Michigan, Grand Rapids area. That is one cluster of stores where the prices match each other 95%. So I could take this store here and that store there, and I can guarantee that they would be 95% price matching. However, that could not be said if I compared it to, say, Indianapolis or Columbus. Now, what this tells us is that you can see, looking at Walmart and Kroger have a much more regional-based pricing. They only need 7 clusters at this 95% match rate level to encompass all of its 202 stores. However, for Walmart, which is only 124 stores, remember, we only need 15 clusters. That's obviously a very small amount. So let's up the stakes. So it doesn't look like much has changed, but it has. This is looking at a 98% price match accuracy. If you can see, we need 35 clusters here in Walmart, and yet with Kroger, it's the same clusters as before. Exactly the same clusters, exactly the same stores in the same cluster. So this obviously shows us that Kroger are price matching to a very significant degree. However, you can see where the variation there is in Walmart is with all the different colors. So it certainly seems to be in large cities such as Chicago and Cincinnati, where they're getting a lot more price variation. As an even bigger proof of Kroger's consistency, we can see there's a 99% match rate. This is the 99% price match rate graph, and we can see we just need one more cluster to match 99% of prices, and it's just to encompass 3 very small stores. So basically what we can take from this is that if you're looking to compete against Walmart, regionally they vary an awful lot, so you need to allow for that. As evidence of this, we've looked at other regions. So this is the Northeast, Massachusetts, New Jersey, etc. And we can see at this level, to get the 95% match rate level, we need 10 clusters, which is a little less than we've seen before. However, if we up this to the 98% match rate that we've seen before, we need 59 clusters, which is a huge number. Looking at the Southeast, we can see we need for 16 clusters for a 15%, for a 95% price match rate, or even 61 clusters if you want to go up to 98. So we've seen that Kroger have a much more consistent regional pricing strategy compared to Walmart. Now, in terms of logistics and possible benefits, both have pros and cons. However, it will really be only the bottom line that will tell you what the better pricing strategy is. Thank you very much for listening. I'll now hand back to Rob for the Q&A section of this webcast.
Thank you, Chris. Great insights. Before the Q&A portion of today's webcast, I'd like to quickly share with everybody that in addition to our virtual webcasts, we also have an awesome schedule of in-person events and programs that we just wanted to share with you going forward. The first event that you can see on your screen is we're very excited to announce our first ever e-hackathon Bentonville taking place March 26th. This is an exclusive full-day Walmart-centric masterclass summit, specifically designed for your U.S. e-commerce business leaders in consumer goods to learn hands-on, share best practices, hack new challenges and opportunities, and accelerate their growth with Walmart. And second, we'd like to invite you to our next e-hackathon New York City on April 16th. This is an exclusive full-day Amazon-centric masterclass summit, overflowing with amazing content, including client case studies, the latest perspective on Amazon, and of course the Hack Shop masterclass sessions. There are limited seats for both events, and early bird tickets are available. So we sold out twice in the fall, so these do go quickly. If you are interested in attending or would like to learn more, you can either reach out to your Edge partners or register directly via our website where it's listed under the events tab. And additionally, for all of the folks on the line today who are based in EMEA, we have similar events as well in London. And if you would be interested in learning more about those events, again, reach out to your Edge partner, visit essentialedge.com or email us directly at info@essentialedge.com. So with that, I'd like to now enter the Q&A portion of today's program. Again, all participants are on mute for the call, but if you do have any questions, you can ask them by entering them into the Q&A box. And again, if we're unable to answer your question live today due to time constraints, we'll make sure to get back to you directly. And I've had a number of questions come in, so really appreciate everybody's engagement. I'll take the first question. Yes, absolutely. All participants will receive a copy of the webcast recording and presentation deck within the next 2 days. So we will make sure to send that to you as a follow-up. Chris, a bunch of questions have come in, so I will begin. The first question, Chris, we saw from the regional pricing analysis that Walmart had significant variation in its pricing in each region. What type of products were subject to this variation?
Yeah, good question. So the basket, let's start with how the basket was made up. So it was largely made up of grocery items. I would say about 60% ambient and then 40% chilled, health and beauty, etc. There was certainly more of a leaning towards branded items than own label, fairly significantly. So that's kind of what the basket was made up of. And when we analysed this and when we actually looked at some of the variations outside of it, I'll be honest, it didn't really bring any particularly broad insights. The products that did vary were actually largely just reflective of the makeup of the basket. Now, of course, this is just one basket, in one region on one day. So we need to produce probably a few more of these to see before we can say with any certainty whether there is a trend or price variance. But essentially, we haven't spotted anything yet.
Thanks, Chris. Another question that came in: which pricing strategy, Walmart or Kroger, do you think is more effective?
Well, I mean, again, only the bottom line in sales would really tell us that. And looking back at some of our retail, sort of the retail day insights data we had at the start, Kroger and Grocery Walmart are certainly both doing very well for themselves. So that there are efficiencies in Kroger's strategy. You probably need to dedicate less resource to that pricing strategy, having something more consistent. It's also probably quite reassuring to the shopper, knowing that they'll pay the same price 2 times over than they might than they might in their own hometown. But personally, I prefer a Walmart strategy. I think if I were a retailer, I'd rather be agile in my pricing in each town, even each neighborhood. Your competitors are going to vary significantly depending on where you are, or even what area of business you're looking at. For instance, health and beauty, CVS. If you near you, you might need to be more keen on your pricing. So I think the more regional variation strategy, I think, gives you a better position to compete against people. The obvious downside to that, of course, is how labor intensive it is. But yeah, I do prefer the Walmart grocery strategy.
Thanks, Chris. Another question that came in: how can excuse me, how can retailers make sure they're choosing the right pricing strategy?
Ooh, that's a big question. Well, you need data. You need to prove and test your strategy over and over again to make sure you're getting it right. So you need to be able to overlap your sales with the pricing and promotion of yourself and your rivals to understand possibly if there are any failings or where you're doing really well. But of course, within that, there are also many factors, such as the same price strategy might not work in every category. It might, health and beauty strategy will be different to fresh meat, for instance, and of course that will vary by region. So fundamentally, as an analyst, of course, I'm going to say this, but I think you need as much data as possible to analyze and inform your decision, and you can then tailor your price strategy to your findings.
Thanks, Chris. Only have time for one more question. Again, we've had a bunch come in. So again, everybody, thank you for your questions. We'll make sure to get back to you. Chris, last question for you. How can Edge Price and Promotion help our organization better develop and think about the right pricing strategies?
Well, I guess going back to my last question, we give you access to all that data. We can, using Edge Price and Promo, as I've done today, you can quickly see the pricing of your rivals or promotion of your rivals in any category, in any of the regions we've looked at, or in any regions you can think of almost, in which you're interested. So you could then simply overlay that with your sales and do maybe a full category analysis like I've just done there of pricing and promotion. And I'm sure we could have gone a lot deeper on that if there were specific questions that needed to be answered. So yeah, that's what we have the data, but it can even be as simple as you need to know when a rival drops the price of a product. We can give you an alert for that. CVS dropped the price of their product. Now you need to go in and move yours, and that can just be an alert into your inbox, into your phone. That's how we can help. So yeah, that's the power of Edge Price and Promotion.
Thanks, Chris. Again, everybody, thanks so much for joining today's call. A big thank you to Chris for hosting today's session. As your organization continues to build out its strategies for 2019 and beyond, Edge by Essential can absolutely help you along that journey. You can contact us today at info@essentialedge.com or by visiting essentialedge.com to learn more, and you can contact us there as well. Again, we will make sure to send the recording and presentation from today's webcast as a follow-up to our live presentation. And again, want to thank everybody for joining. Big thanks to Chris, and again, very much looking forward to being in touch with everybody in today's call, and hope everyone has a great rest of their day.